How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we'll make Genovese focaccia. Now, focaccia is a very regional bread. There's dozens of different kinds around Italy. This one is a little bit thinner than normal and topped with a water and oil emulsion, making the crust chewy but also crispy. And unlike some other focaccias on my channel, this is the simplest one to make. Now I'm gonna tuck into my risotto and enjoy my focaccia, and you go make your own one. And as always, you'll find a full written recipe with metric and imperial units down in the link in the description box. So let's see what equipment we need. You'll need a tray. Now you can make it in a smaller tray and have it thicker, or you can make it on a larger tray and make it thinner. We'll also need a bowl, scales, dough scraper, temperature probe, a whisk. That's it. Now ingredients for the dough: strong white bread flour, water, yeast, salt, a little bit of olive oil, some honey for sweetness, and then for the topping we'll need some olive oil, water and some sea salt. Now before we start, I know my kitchen is around 21 degrees Celsius, so I want my water to be around 7.5 to 8 degrees. Now grab a bowl, combine the water, yeast, salt and honey, and give it all a good mix. And like I said, this is the simplest focaccia because we're not using a pre-ferment. It is a straight dough, meaning that we're mixing all the ingredients from the get-go and it's ready to ferment. It's basically the same process of making any old white bread. And if you've never made focaccia before, here's your chance. Now add your flour to your water, yeast, salt and honey mix, grab your dough scraper and bring it together. If the scraper's not doing the job, continue on by hand. You want to mix the dough in the bowl until there's no more dry flour, to avoid making a mess on your table. This dough is not too sticky or stretchy, so I'm going to use the regular kneading method. What I like to do is press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand, then using the fingers of my left hand I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand, then turn it and repeat. Once you've done this a few times, the motion will become fluent, it will be like second nature. If the dough starts sticking to your table a little bit, and to your hands, just grab your scraper and scrape it up. It goes without saying that your hands should be clean before you start making your bread. Now once you've scraped it all together, continue kneading. From start to finish, this process should not take more than 6 minutes. And once your dough is nice and smooth and not too sticky anymore, it's ready for the first proof. But we need to clean down before we go ahead. Let me show you a little trick. I wish it was this easy in real life. Now pop your dough into a bowl and take its temperature. 25 degrees Celsius is exactly what I was looking for. I'm going to cover it up and leave it for 1 hour. If your dough is warmer, it may ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it may take longer. It also depends on the temperature of your room. After the first proof, we want to give the dough a fold. To perform a fold, place your dough out on the table, smooth side down, flatten it out, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach point where you started. Then tighten it, pinch the seam together, and back in the bowl it goes, smooth side pointing up. Folding benefits the dough in a number of ways. It helps with degassing, it creates extra layers in the dough structure, making your dough stronger, and it equalizes temperature. Now once you've done your fold, pop your dough back into the bowl, cover it up and leave it to ferment for 1 more hour. It should slowly start puffing up during this time. After the second proof, we need to give it another fold. And the process is exactly the same as before. I'm going to cover this up and leave it to ferment for 1 more hour. That'll be 3 hours of bulk fermentation. If your dough is puffing up real quick, then you might want to skip the last hour. But regardless, once it's nicely puffed up, you can continue on with the next step. Let's make the emulsion. Combine the remaining oil and water in a bowl and whisk it up. This will only take a few seconds, just whisk it until it becomes nice and pale. Now pour half the mix over the dough. Then grab your scraper, release the dough from the bowl, and then roll it around in the water and oil mix to cover the whole surface. And look how nice and soft this dough is, you can see how bubbly it is. And because we're using a small amount of yeast, this fermentation time is long, and that will give your focaccia a nice flavor. And that's how it is with any bread. Time equals flavor. Now place your dough on a tray and stretch it out gently using your fingertips. If you don't have a non-stick tray, use a bit of parchment paper. You can add extra oil to the bottom of the dough, just to make sure it doesn't stick. And that's it, now we're ready for the final proof. Now cover it up and leave it. It took me around 1 hour. Your kitchen may be cooler, it may take you longer, it may be warmer, it may take you less time. Keep an eye on it. But you want to leave it to ferment until it's visibly puffed up. And during the final fermentation, preheat your oven 200 degrees Celsius with a fan on. And although you can't see it from the top, it has puffed up considerably. Have a look from the side. See how it's domed in the middle? It's full of bubbles. Now take your oil and water mix and give it a good whisking, because it will have split by now. Emulsify it again and then pour it over the dough, nice and evenly. Make sure to use up all of it. Now if you would like, at this point you could add some toppings to this dough. But this is the classic, plain version. Now before it goes in the oven, just organize it, stretch it out so it fits the tray, and then dimple it with your fingertips all over to give it that classic look with all the little crevices on top. Last but not least, give it a good sprinkling of sea salt for the nice salty crunch. Pop it in the oven. It will take around 15 to 20 minutes. And once it's puffed up and golden brown all over, it's ready. You can lift it up and check that the bottom is cooked. If it's not, then flip it upside down and pop it back in the oven for a couple minutes. And when it comes out, let it sit for around 5 minutes in the tray before removing it. And that's how you make Focaccia Genovese. Simple, yet super delicious. Now tell me your favorite kind of focaccia down in the comments. Or let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. My channel is full of awesome bread recipes. And not only that, I also teach bread baking principles. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.